present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Folks, it's time to take back the control of our government. Now, before the bureaucratic, oversized, self-serving federal government starves us of our prosperity, our freedom, our rights, our liberty. And to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure, and we need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is all about that. And welcome to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your honored guest host, Gary Murphy, in for Joe Cristiano. I feel honored to be in for Joe.
Congratulations, Gary.
Yeah, there you go. I think Joe's probably out shopping for hats.
No, he is. And Joe's having a procedure.
Procedure?
Yeah, us
okay.
older guys, we know what that's all about.
Yeah, procedure. Oh, boy.
Yeah, he's celebrating the 4th
with a bang.
Yeah, with a bang. And he's actually trying to avoid the death panels for in the future that we face. So he's taking care of a few items before any of that happens.
Well, you'll do a great job, Gary.
Well,
Great to have you along, buddy.
Well, thank you. Well, Joe, if you're listening, we all here wish you could be here with us tonight in the studio.
Sure.
And we wish for you to have a fast recovery. And as a matter of fact, we would like to talk to you tonight. Maybe we'll, if people call in tonight and say, call up Joe, we want to hear Joe, we'll do it. Yeah. So we need callers to call in because I'm going to die, folks, if you don't help me out here.
You'll be fine. You got a great big studio full here.
We got a great studio audience here of participants, and we'll have a great program tonight. A little later, we'll in the show we have a guest.
Yes,
from Virginia's 7th District campaign, a libertarian, James Carr, and we'll be taking your calls to him. And he's running against in that big race between, the guy Butts who beat Cantor, the incumbent there on the Republican Party, and he'll be running against a Democrat too. So it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and first of all, though, let's do this. Let's take a little time to thank our sponsors, Ranch Acres Audiology, helping communicate better and hearing by hearing and adding to the conversation. It's great to hear and communicate, but if you can't hear...
And you can't do it clearly.
How can you participate? So we want to add you to the conversation. See the good folks at...
What are you laughing
Ranch
at?
Acres Audiology. I'm being laughed at, folks.
What are you being
holding
laughed
it
at
together,
for?
though. Mac Cool Firearms. That's another one of our sponsors.
Those fellas.
You're turning bright red there, Gary.
Okay, they're the place where you can buy and sell firearms, a kind of a judgment-free zone for those of you who want to go buy a firearm. You don't have to worry about Lana or Larry or Dave, not treating you right. They're great folks down at Mac Cool Firearms, and
they won't make you feel. They won't make you. There's no dumb questions.
There's no dumb questions down there. That's right. Because when you're handling a firearm, you better be serious about how it shoots and how the safety, features and all that. And they teach you all that, and they can put you in with the right people to get a carry license. And let's not forget the Green Beetle.
Oh my! Can't forget the Green Beetle. How can you forget the Green?
Well, they're one of our new sponsors, and folks, you need to go by and see them. They're at 81st and Memorial,
just north of there.
Just north of there.
Fat Guy's Burgers, man.
Right next to Fat Guy's Burgers. That's right.
That is a neat store.
They help you get prepared to be prepared. You know what I mean? And you don't want to get caught off guard if hits the fan, or if you're out in the wilderness somewhere and you get caught short and stranded. So you need to shop over at the Green Beetle, make sure that doesn't happen.
And they have a great selection of knives. I've never seen such a selection of knives anywhere.
They're beautiful, and they're they
survival knives or tactical or whatever.
Well, they're in glass cases.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, and they're displayed
stunning,
nicely. Yeah. And you got, the big ones, the littler ones, the littlest, and the teeny ones, all the same stuff. They got the whole line of
great line
of knives from each manufacturer. So I was going to go back and just start over again. Folks, it's time to take back our... I'm done with my notes.
Just read the intro over and over. We'll kill time that way.
This is I'm out of notes. I'm starting over.
Kevin hasn't said anything yet. What's wrong with Kevin?
What's
Hey,
happening
how's
to you,
it
bro?
going?
Hey, you were here last week.
You're usually a
yes, sir.
jabberbox. Come on, Kev.
Hey, Kevin, we really appreciate you coming in. We asked people to come on and have something to say, and Kevin, we met him down here at the
Tropical smoothie.
Smoothie Cafe.
Yeah.
Gotta love them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. And he
Funny
right
thing,
away,
yeah.
we jumped right into the conversation, and we had a great time.
Smart
And,
young man. Smart
asked
young
him to
man.
come down and give his 2 cents, and we got 50 cents out of it, I think.
Yeah, I think more than
An ounce of silver, too.
That's right.
So what's on your mind today, Kevin?
First and foremost, I've been kind of like checking into the medical field and stuff like that because it's been a lot going on. When I say a lot, it's not just about Obamacare and things like that. It has to do with the whole reformation of healthcare. And what's going on lately is the doctors and other healthcare providers have made it legal to start sharing and distributing the patient's information out. And the reason for doing that is they want to keep track of basically what you purchase, and then they'll use that inside an algorithm to basically determine if you're able to take up a certain amount of health care that they give out. And then
Is it the doctors and the?
it's the
or is it
doctors,
legislation?
Isn't it illegal?
DA.
Yeah, I thought there was a
medical
HIPAA.
board.
there is a
HIPAA.
hemp actually.
There's
HIPAA
HIPAA.
was
It's
actually
not-
created in
Hippo or
2003.
HIPAA? What,
No,
what-
it's
HIPAA.
HIPAA.
HIPP. I mean
I thought it had
HIPA.
something to do with
And there was
maybe
two
the-
P's, HIPPA.
Yes.
But
Oh, okay.
is it no? Where did it start? It's the board, and
It actually started in 2003. It had to do with the healthcare board and it also dealt with the government. And then what it basically did is, or what they said it did, is it was intended to protect the patient's medical care records. And then from doing that, we already know that the government is basically controlled by lobbyists. So from their own, corporations have been able to access your healthcare information from third parties to even the people doing the hiring. And then even the ones doing the hiring, they use that to see whom they'll give out raises or deem other beneficiary items to, or just, hey, pat on the back, good job, here's a little bit. But they actually keep track of that because I actually know a couple business owners that check your Facebook before they even set up a hiring date. And then that kind of pulls back into the...
Or if somebody keeps showing up, late on Monday, you just go look at their Facebook and find out
what
Like
they
even
do.
that. Like even that. They
that's
even
why you
check
never
up
give
on-
your employers your
Yeah.
Facebook.
Oh, we
Definitely.
had
Or take it
we had
down,
employees that made us friends. Boy, that was dumb. Especially when they had a
And there should be
I know, right?
a HIPAA for Facebook. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually have one for Facebook. Like they'll check you out. Oh, you were drinking Tuesday. I thought you had a stomach virus.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so it kind of goes into the psychology of things. That's where the medical field is kind of basically bouncing off from, because at the end of the day, it's how you can control so many people with the least amount of leaders.
Well, it's kind of funny. We have got ourselves into a culture that, there's nothing private.
And honestly,
And, seriously, I mean, we've allowed ourselves to get into
Allowed, yes.
Yeah, we've
Yes.
allowed ourselves to be put into position where nothing is sacred. I mean, it's all out there for everybody to see. It's weird. People have never been that way.
privatization. Like if you can privatize something, you can sell the anti for it. If I start checking out your phone calls, I can sell you privacy cell phones that keep your information encrypted. It's all about capitalizing on something and selling it. They actually started in New Zealand before they actually started doing it here in America, and they practiced privatization. They did it to the point where most laws didn't matter no more. It was all corporatization. For example, mercantile corporations. It's where a corporation gets too big. They come in and basically start owning you through owning your government. And then an example for that is the Royal Crown of Europe or Britain. They've used that on India. They've used that on China. They've used it on Africa. And they've used it on America, especially after World War II.
Yeah, most of this stuff happened after World War II.
Yeah, pretty much. Even taxes became a big ordeal after that, too.
Yeah. Yeah, we've increased taxes. We increased surveillance of our activities. And,
For
I wonder
freedom.
how long, in freedom, yeah, and for safety.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then even one of the founding fathers says, when they start asking for your freedom for safety, that's when you need to start worrying. And I believe it was Washington that said that one. Benjamin, thank you.
Benjamin Franklin, yeah. It's funny, we just celebrated the 4th of July this weekend, and we all gathered around at my house, my brother and his family, and we had a nice barbecue and that type thing, and we said a little prayer before we ate, and, I basically, this is my home, I led the prayer, and I said, God, I ask that you would save this republic what vestiges of still left. And I got, of what our republic is all about. We have lost so much, and we need people to start waking up, And I said basically, and I said a few other things. Thank God for the food, and there we went. But then we dig in.
Amen.
But the thing about it is, I got to thinking about that. The last vestiges of our entire republic are hanging on threads.
Hanging on by their fingernails.
By their fingernails. And one of the big things is freedom of speech. That is one powerful thing that they're trying to take away. They're trying to put us in free speech zones. They're trying to monitor what's politically correct to say and what's not politically correct to say.
Definitely.
And it's like, what are we doing if we do not start speaking up? And there's a lot of people that are awake. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that understand what we're talking about here, and but they're not saying anything. The men who created this republic,
yes,
they risked their lives, their fortunes, their companies, their reputations.
Well, speaking of people risking their fortunes and stuff, wasn't it Hobby Lobby just recently took to the Supreme Court?
Wasn't that gutsy?
Yeah, that's to allow them to not
have contraceptive.
Contraceptions that actually killed the fetus.
They didn't try not to pay for standard contraception for the risk of having a child.
Just like Plan B.
Right. There's like 16 different forms of contraception that they are providing. It's just the 4 that kill the fetus.
And they morally believe that is wrong, and they didn't want to pay for it. And what's wrong,
And they invested their resources to
go to the Supreme Court. You
got
to have some money to do that. I mean, seriously.
But you can go to the health department and get it for free. So
it's not like that people can't go to the health department or can't go buy something at the drugstore to prevent an unwanted pregnancy using your good sense. You know what I mean? Now some people believe that you should be able to just have all the children that God would give you. I think the Catholics believe that, and it's fine. If that's what they believe, they should.
I have a quick question about this thing. What is this business about the correlation between the war on women and contraception? Forgive me, but I kind of think the contraception is mutually beneficial. I mean, that's the last time I checked it was. So what's this thing about the war on women?
You sound really round up, and I want you to say all about that, but we've got to go to break. And as soon as we get back, stay riled up, and let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your guest host, Gary Murphy, sitting in for the awesome Joe Cristiano. He just hates that word, but I used it.
We got to play this.
We
got to play. This is for Joe.
Come on now.
That's just for you, Joe.
Hey, Joe, if you're listening in, I'm sure that little monitor on your heart's going through the ceiling.
No, his heart rate's staying at 50.
Oh, my God. Before the break, we were talking about the people who have given up so much in our history to promote liberty and to fight tyranny, and our founding fathers did that. And then there's some people in recent history, these people with the Hobby Lobby, they in conscience didn't want to pay for abortions and the death of a fetus to control birth control and pay for it with this Obamacare, so they went to the Supreme Court. And so we got talking about that. And Gary, you had a couple comments. You were getting really riled up.
Yeah, you were getting riled up, Gary.
I was. My heart pressure was going up just a little bit.
Hey.
I just,
You'll land in the hospital with Joe.
Right, I'll be with Joe shortly. But there's just some things that were bothering me about this. First and foremost, Contraception, why is that a woman's thing? I mean, that's a mutually beneficial thing. I don't think a guy wants an unexpected baby any more than a woman does. So how is that a war on women? And then the second thing, what is the deal with a right? We have a right to birth control. Okay, yeah, sure, we have a right to buy birth control, but the distinguishing factor in this debate is not whether or not you have the right to buy birth control. It is whether or not the government should pay for birth control. And I got to thinking, I think a fantastic thing is I have a right for somebody else to fix my car. Better yet, I have the right for the government to pay to fix my car.
I like that. Oil changes and everything, right?
Exactly.
Wait a minute. I was just getting a note when you started talking. No, you don't.
Oh, I disagree.
Did I get into the conversation a little later?
A little late. You know what?
Were you saying that sarcastically?
No, I think Walmart should fix my car and the government should pay for it, and they can take that to the Supreme Court. I have a right to that.
You have a right.
Man.
You want them to buy your contraception.
Yes, and I want them to buy my contraception. I want them to take care of me. You know what? They've got enough money. They can pay for it. It'd be just perfectly fine.
Would you like to live in a padded room as well?
Yes, exactly.
I'm sitting
Either in a
right
padded
now.
room or in a van down by the river, whichever comes first.
For sure.
Yeah,
So,
Okay.
Of which you would need birth control.
It sounds like it's out of
Hey,
control. I gotta tell you.
This sounds out of control. So let me slow this down a minute.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People out there hear all of us talking, and they don't know who they're talking to. I'm going to go around the room, and of course, our camera will follow them. We have Tim Hager, and he has a friend here tonight, Andy.
Yes, Andrea Mitchell. I'm a physician assistant.
Great. Well, good to have you tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Glad
And
to be
then
here.
Gary, the other Gary Varner.
hello, nice to meet you. I am the producer for this crazy bunch. So,
Yep.
How
And
can you?
he's all
How
riled
can
up.
you?
I'm all riled up.
He's all riled up. And then we have Kevin.
Nice to meet everybody. Culinary cook, part-time student.
All right. And we have my grandson in studio today. And, of course, Jim, he's producing the show back behind the glass. We keep him back there so it's safer in here. And so tonight we've had a good time starting off. And Joe is at the Heart Institute, and we're going to give him a call. And once we, I think, are we calling him, Jim?
No, you have Lloyd from Henrietta on the line here. Wants to talk to you folks.
Oh, bring Lloyd on.
There you are, Lloyd.
Yeah. You know what? I think I have a right to hear Joe Cristiano do his rant at the first of the program.
Oh, yes. And he's ready.
You know what? We'd love to have him here doing that, but doctor didn't let him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I figured that was my right, but, you know, I hope Joe's doing good and everything. I hope it ain't something serious. You know, I was thinking.
It was for the poor cow that lost his aorta.
Mercy.
But somebody ate the cow, and they'll, being with the
Well,
valve
that's true,
soon.
but the cow had a
It's recycled.
short life. Yeah, he's recycled. There you go.
Yeah,
So Joe will
well,
be here mooing next week.
Okay, well, I thought he might have been getting that breast enlargement he was wanting.
And he has a right to get it paid for by.
Yeah.
Insurance won't cover that till September, though.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Just wanted to call in, say hi to Joe and everything if he's listening.
Well, we're gonna call in to get Joe on the air. I think that's only right. We do call him, and
Okay.
that's what we're gonna do. Well, can you stay on the line? Maybe we can talk with him. Can you guys do that in the engineering? Tie the two together? Oh man,
Yeah,
that's
sure
awesome.
can. Just give me a minute to get him on the phone here.
Okay.
You guys talk, and I'll get him on the phone.
Well, anyway, I started talking about the freedom of speech earlier, and that is one of the last things we have. They're going to take our guns away. You know that's going to happen.
Definitely.
I mean, they're planning for it. They got the bullets. They're militarizing the police. They've got more federal cops now. They're starting to arm the Homeland Security guys with guns. These guys are basically Barney and, a bunch of Barneys. They never do any major training of law enforcement. All they can do is grope people pretty well. So anyway, we've got that going on. And a lot of the police and people who are in that field and vets and all that, they don't like it either. They know there's something going down. There's a lot of them that understand that. You
Definitely.
guys,
most of them are kept silence because also too what this also I believe that it strings from is the arms treaty that was brought up by the UN.
Oh gosh.
And then one of the clauses in it is if the national police of a state couldn't uphold their duties, that the UN would be given the right to come in and then take over whatever that the job was to do. And then that also plays into the U.S.
You mean they have it actually written down somewhere?
Yeah, they actually have it written down.
Okay, so there's a treaty, an arms treaty and all that. So, guys, it's already set up. It's going to happen.
They already set
it up.
You
know it's going to happen. If they're talking about it and they're planning for it, it's going to happen. So we got one thing we do, and that right now, if people don't start speaking out and not worry about what their neighbor thinks they're a kook or they're wearing a tinfoil hat or they're a conspiracy theorist and all these other things. I could care less what anybody thinks of me. We got a beautiful republic that was created by some very smart and honest men, and their whole lives were, they're just like us, they're human beings, but they had an idea of freedom, of individual freedom against tyranny, and they created a constitution which was the best shot at trying to put that together, and we're, wanting it away.
But you know what, Gary? I
think we have Joe on the line.
Oh, we got Joe. Hey, let's get him on.
Hey,
Joe.
Joe, you there?
I sure am.
Yay, Joe!
Joe.
Well, how you feeling, Joe? Are they treating you right down there at the heart hospital?
I just I achieved a milestone. I walked 225 feet.
Congratulations!
Congratulations,
That's awesome,
man!
That's 4 times as much as you did yesterday.
That's right.
And probably 10 times more than most guys his age that had the same operation.
Exactly.
What's really interesting is that I'm a veteran of 9 triathlons, and this was infinitely more difficult than doing a triathlon here in the Tulsa heat.
Oh, buddy.
I'm not kidding you. I think it's amazing that this 250 feet, whatever it was actually more arduous than a triathlon in the July summer heat.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Joe, I went and saw you about 24 hours after the operation. You looked pretty ragged then, I'll tell you. But 24 hours later, I talked to you on the telephone, and it's amazing how you've come back, jumped back, and you're talking politics. You're trying to convert all the neocons that you meet in the hospital, and that's wonderful.
I have to be very careful because these are the guys with all the sharp needles. So I have to make sure that we're in agreement too.
Hey, we have Lloyd on the line, too. Hey, Lloyd, say hi to Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, Lloyd. Thank you so much, Lloyd. It was wonderful hearing from you.
I wanted to hear you rant.
He hopefully can be back next week and rant. I sure hope I don't have to do this duty again.
Lloyd thought you were going in the hospital for a breast enlargement, Joe.
Well, if I ranted right now, I'd be out for another 4 weeks.
Well, he actually had them both parted like the Red Sea.
Good statement.
Compliments of Obamacare.
Yeah. Oh, Joe.
It's interesting. Here I am, and I have no idea how much this operation cost.
Really?
Really? You don't know?
A lot, Joe. A lot.
I know. Probably 6 figures. I have no idea how much it costs. Actually, it's hardly costing me anything. It's you suckers they're going to pay for it.
I was wondering where my taxes was going.
There you go, see?
Yeah, so I'm not worried at all because I know you guys work very hard and make sure you save up enough money to pay for my operation. So I appreciate it very much.
Hopefully we're good for it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, Joe, what actually procedures did you have? Why don't you share that with us real quick? We got about a minute before break.
I actually had 3 procedures. I've had from birth, I've had a bad heart valve, and it lasted infinitely longer than they projected. And so a whole heart valve had to come out and replaced and reamed out and all that stuff. So, same thing as a valve job on a car. Then they had to redo the electrical impulses that go to the heart because the valve job sort of throws everything off. And I had also at the same time a bypass.
Oh man!
I haven't had any pain or felt like I was having a heart attack, but apparently one of the aortic valves, not valves, but one of the aortic arteries were getting clogged up. And although I'm a vegetarian, I take care of myself, I guess I screwed up a little bit too much. So I had really three major operations all at once.
Wow. Well, Joe, we're so glad you came through with flying colors, and you look like you have 100% recovery, and you'll be ranting here next week, and we're just excited to have you back next week. And we're on that hard break. You know which one that is, and then they're going to have a guest. So we're going to have to say goodbye to everybody and go into break. Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys for doing what you're doing, for backing me up, and I appreciate all of our listeners. Thank you so much for listening in.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. God bless. Hello and welcome back to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your guest host, Gary Murphy, standing in for Joe Cristiano, and we have our guest tonight. Our guest is James Carr. He's a candidate for the District 7 Virginia congressional race. And James, he's on the line. James, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Real good. Hey, James, I was reading a little bit about you on your website, and looks like you've had a background in business. You're not a novice. You're a family man. You're married and have 3 children. Are those twin daughters, 17-month-old girls? Boy,
yeah, well, at this point, they're 22 months old, yep.
Wow. Well, that's great. You got your hands full. Your wife's got her hands full, I'm sure.
Oh,
and, you worked in the defense industry as an analyst and a senior cost analyst, and that's where you started kind of thinking, boy, there's a lot of waste going on here. And now,
right.
now in the healthcare, right? Now in the healthcare business, you really can see it. So,
well, I thought I'd go into a nice, easy, simple industry that I could make a difference in, and wow, healthcare turns out not to be quite so simple.
So why is a nice guy like you going to leave the private sector and run for Congress, where most of us, we ought to run as fast as we can and fast as to get away from Washington? You want to go there. Why is that, Jim?
Well, the most concise answer that I can give is if the people who do not want power over others simply sit back and allow those who do want the power over others to have it, we are always going to be under the thumb of government. And I could not sit by and watch this continued destruction of individual liberty and look my son in the eye when he gets older and say, well, I wanted to try, but it was too difficult. So really, in order to live with myself, be able to look my kids in the eye, at least I can say, hey, the country's in rough shape, but I tried. I want to set the example and let them know that as long as we, as individuals across the nation who really want to preserve individual rights, continue to fight for it, we're going to turn the corner. It's not easy. It's not one person getting into office. It's not a dozen people getting into office. It's changing the mindset of the American people, and you have to start somewhere. So,
wow, that's wow, that is a big job.
Why don't you review with our Liberty Talk listeners what Congress seat you're running for and what state and all that?
Yeah, and who your opposition is and what party you're with.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's changed a little bit over the last several weeks. So to go back to when I first started this, I'm running in Virginia's 7th District, currently held by Eric Cantor. Just about everybody listening is going to know exactly who that is. I've been in the news quite a bit and is going to know why this race has taken on a very different form. And when I decided to run, it was actually election night last year. Virginia had an extremely ugly gubernatorial election. It was one of the worst mudslinging festivals you've seen. And we had this third-party candidate who unfortunately didn't have a lot of money because, as a libertarian, you're not going to have a big bankroll behind you.
James
ran a fabulous campaign, but unfortunately wasn't able to get the word out there quick enough to enough people, but really started to open people's eyes to this idea of the Libertarian Party having a real real solid foothold here in Virginia. So on election night, I announced that I was running as an independent with libertarian ideals. So I wanted to see if I would even be able to get the libertarian nomination, being someone who hasn't been actively involved in a party. Turns out the Libertarian Party is very different than the other major parties. And they're different in that you don't have to be a large dollar donor. You don't have to prove that you have the potential to bring in a lot of cash for them to say, you know what, you represent our ideals. We want to have you associated with us. So, I talked with them, so I really would like the nomination. I am a member of the party, but just I haven't been very active or vocal until recently. So I got the nomination and just got word, because Virginia has, ballot access procedure like everyone else, that you have to get some number of signatures as a non-R or D party to get on the ballot. Got that taken care of. And then the plan was, we're going to show everyone that going up, you should be able to set up the David and Goliath view.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
It really going up against Eric Cantor was an intentional move as well, but it wasn't the only reason I picked the 7th district. Virginia allows you to run for Congress in any district as long as you live in the state, and a lot of people live outside of the districts that they run for. I think that's a little distasteful, personally. The whole idea, the reason Congress was set up the way that it was and apportioned accordingly was because you wanted people from your area who understood the needs of your district.
There were reasons. There were reasons people did things the way they did it, and we should stick to those reasons.
That would be a
prudent thing to do.
Yeah. So now we have 2 professors from Randolph-Macon College and myself in the race. Dave Bratt, who won the Republican primary.
Now, that was an interesting thing. I mean, was he a Tea Party guy? What was he?
He was a Tea Party guy, and what's very interesting is his campaign manager is a libertarian, has been for a long time.
Interesting. Has he got some libertarian views as well? Does he have any libertarian views?
Mr. Bratt has libertarian views on the fiscal side for the most part. But when you start looking at a lot of the social issues, he and even his website states it very clearly. I want to get back to the Republican creed and put God back into the government.
So he wants to inject the God card.
Yes. So with that, he had a lot of Tea Party backing. But what was really interesting in this primary, and I think so many people missed how this happened, and I don't understand it. My team and I were basically planning for this outcome I'd say about 45% of our time was spent planning for this outcome versus the one where Cantor went.
You said, in other words, you thought Cantor would cream his clock and then you'd be against Goliath all by yourself.
Well, no, we knew it was going to be a very close race. We spent a little bit more time planning because the chances with the money that was spent
might go against him, actually,
Cantor
because
winning, yeah. Well, it turns out, that people were just so tired of this
big money politics.
Yeah, well, big money politics, but also this incredibly divisive approach that we have up there, this polarizing way.
Left-right paradigm.
And Cantor was just a very clear representation of that issue. So people that were not Republicans very clearly voted in this, but a lot of just the Republicans that were here wanted a change.
You see a change in the Republican Party? You see that there's a branch of the Republican Party that wants to tilt toward libertarian ideals?
There's a branch, but unfortunately, I think what's happening is the majority of the leadership, everybody's getting further and further polarized. And I don't believe that they're actually going to be changing in a positive direction. I think they're actually just going to kind of double down on their existing inflexibility. And
so people need to make a clean break if they're going to go liberty and fight tyranny. They really need to step over the lines. What you're saying?
Well, if I didn't believe that, I would have run for
in the Republican Party.
And said, I want to try to fix them from the inside out. I do not believe that it can be fixed.
Yeah, you almost kind of get so corrupted with all the, tainted with all the corruption. And then they start handing a bunch of money out, and then the candidates' views change.
Yeah, well, they say, well, hey, here's a nice big donation over here. We'll float next year's campaign as long as you step in line.
So they step you right into that. These poor guys get sucked into compromising their ideals right from the get-go when they go with a money-driven party rather than like your Libertarian Party. You said it was a matter of nomination came by your ideals, rather.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Hey, James, we have a caller. Let's take that caller and see what he has. He's got some
Dennis from
for
Tulsa.
Dennis.
Well, yes. Well,
Yes.
I was glad to hear that Joe was doing good. His voice sounded a little bit sluggish, probably from his procedure. I was curious, did he opt out of the free procedure to all libertarian voters and Tea Party voters under Obamacare? It's the free procedure. Any medical procedure, you get a free lobotomy.
No, I don't think he wanted that.
Okay.
He paid extra.
Okay. Well, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. It's very important that we keep our elected officials feet to the fire, keep them honest, and teach our children, what needs to be done in the future, because they're the ones that are going to get hurt the most.
Amen.
They're being set up to fail, and that's not fair. It's immoral. So I'm glad you guys are standing on the front line and swinging. Don't stop swinging.
Amen. Well, hey, we appreciate that. I appreciate the encouragement.
All right, boys, keep it up.
All right. Well, James, we sound like we got people in Tulsa that have the same.
For what you're doing, buddy.
Yeah, doing exactly what you're doing there. Speaking out for what's right for your family.
Well, if you sit down and let people walk all over you, they will continue. Everybody needs to understand that if you stand up and you use your voice, people will start to listen. I've seen a couple of, the nice little memes online, which I think every once in a while somebody hits something so cleanly, and you have there's about 50 people in front of one person, and one person is just pointing at them, and it's very clearly, the dictator telling all the people who are bowed down. And one person stands up, and the dictator has that person taken out of line. And then 5 people stand up, and the dictator starts to wobble a little bit on his stance, but he has them taken away. And then 50 people stand up,
so
and
James,
then the dictator's gone.
James, I got a question.
Let him finish.
Oh, okay.
He's telling a story. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and at that point, 50 people are up. This is a substantial piece of the crowd. The dictator is gone. And the only way that we get our individual freedoms back, the first one person that stands up, they're standing up, they're getting beheaded. They know that. But they are the ones that open the next 5 people's eyes. And they stand up, and they are off to that same doomed destiny. But you know what? They started the ball rolling. They started this initiative. I actually think we're already ready for that 50 people to stand up. There are people like yourselves that have been out talking about this idea. It's not a new idea. It's been around a long time. But you're reminding people that we actually still deserve individual freedom. And enough people are listening that I think this is going to be the year that we actually make a difference. In Congress, we put people who are no longer beholden to big money politics up there, and we start reining in the federal government to where it should be.
Yes, it's out of control. A lot of people talk about the immigration situation and trying to put a fence down there between us and Mexico. I kind of think we put a fence around the Beltway. We'd be, spending our money better. Keep all those crazies in there. Jim, you had a comment.
Oh yeah, James, what are you really passionate about? What is it that really moves you, that you're out there when you're campaigning? What is that thing that's on your heart that you really want to get out there and get people motivated?
Well, it's very difficult for me because what I've found, and I think I'm going to have a hard time conveying this, because to me I'm passionate about individual liberty, but I'm also passionate about a logical application of ideals. And what has happened, and happens too often in politics, is someone creates a polarizing term, or they come up with an emotionally evocative issue, and that becomes central to their campaign. And that is what they run on, because people get turned on by emotions. Well, the problem with that is, when you turn those emotions on, most of the time, logic turns off. You just brought up an incredibly sensitive issue that is being used right now to polarize the U.S., immigration. And they created, there's this term that they'd love to throw around, amnesty. And they capital A, amnesty. And you're a pro-amnesty. You hate the U.S. And amnesty is actually potentially one small piece of immigration reform. But you don't talk about immigration reform. You talk about amnesty because it evokes emotions in people. And you can get you just want to let everybody run amok. You must be, this flaming liberal. I've been called everything from a neocon to a flaming liberal.
A flaming liberal? I wouldn't know how to handle that.
You'd be surprised that people pick one issue and they just throw you into a bucket based on that.
Well, have you heard the reports lately about the immigration situation? I am all for immigration, frankly, because I'm the son of potato pickers. I guess you call them pickers. I'm an Irishman. And my folks, my history comes from Ireland, and we were immigrants to this country, and we had we came here because it was opportunity. But the time that my forefathers came, there wasn't a bunch of giveaway programs. There weren't a bunch of people trying to use yours and my tax dollars to buy votes for their party. And I think that's really, that's why I accuse them of, because that's what I think's going on.
You're right. There are definitely some portion of people who are going to abuse any system that you put in place. And quite honestly, what you have to ask yourself is, should these systems exist at a federal level? Because that's where we actually have gotten so far off base. We have so many programs at a federal level that were never set up by the Constitution. They were never granted, the states never granted the federal government the authority to run these programs. The federal government just said, we're going to take this little piece off your hands. Don't worry about it. We'll be nice, and we'll let you do what you want to do, but we're going to go ahead and take most of this away, off your hands, make it easier on you. And the states, okay, go for it. Yeah, Department of Education, that was a federal government.
Boy, that was a big mistake, wasn't it? Yeah, to allow the federal government. We have the most stupid population in the world. You know that, don't you? One of the most.
Absolutely.
I mean, we really have the most stupid population in the world. It's because the federal government, who's so stupid, can't even figure out how to run an economy and get people jobs to run, health care. These are the people up there in Washington going to make decisions whether your kids can read or write. Most people can teach their own kids to read or write. Give me a break.
Well, and I actually take a much more cynical view than you do, because you were saying that the government is not smart enough, the people in power are not smart enough to educate our children well. And what I'm going to tell you is there is absolutely no interest in Washington to educate our children well, because the meek, the ignorant will follow based on these emotionally evocative terms. They will do what you say because they don't know what else to do. They haven't been taught critical thinking skills.
Or they've been taught wrong. Or they've been given wrong information.
Absolutely. And I think it's actually a much more active approach to creating an ignorant populace who will follow without questioning.
So these are the people, though, that you need to elect you, right? So you gotta appeal to their emotion. You gotta appeal to that darker side or lighter side or whatever side it is that you need. So what are you going to use to lure them along and bait them to embrace everything that you believe in and stand for?
Well, what I'm going to tell them is I want to run, and I want to get into Washington. And what I want to basically propose is that, okay, and now it's time for you all to fire me within 6 years. I want the people to see that this should be a much more fluid process. You shouldn't have people in D.C. Term limits are easy to talk to, and they're if you're talking about procedural issues, they don't get people as fired up. But term limits is a little bit different because they're seeing this stagnation in this elite class in Washington. And when I've talked to people about term limits, I've watched this little fire in there. Yeah, I can't believe that these people go up, and I haven't seen our representative in the last 12 years actually hold a town hall meeting. How the hell does he know what we want?
So you want to be visible.
They get fired up.
You want to be out there. You want them to know you.
Yeah, well, it's not just that you want them to know you. That's coming from the wrong direction. I want to know them. I'm representing them. My job is to go up and vote as my constituents want me to vote.
That's kind of an old-fashioned idea, isn't it?
Sounds pretty good. Yeah.
That's kind of out of vogue right now up in Washington.
I know. Really, we should have maybe put this down on paper somewhere. This
maybe you should, yes.
I know how we can start it. We the people.
I was thinking the same thing.
I like the sound of that. But
James?
no, I've actually come up with a very specific solution to that. And as I've been talking to people, they like the idea, but technically we have to figure out how to implement it. I do not believe we should have elections now with this technology that we have in place. For a representative once every 2 years for Congress, we shouldn't have these huge spaces between. I think for big issues.
James,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a quick question for you. We live in a political system that's very entrenched in the two-party philosophy. What do you say, or what is your rebuttal to people who say we shouldn't have a third party, we shouldn't split the vote, you'll let the Democrats win? What is your rebuttal to those people?
Well, it depends on the situation. If it's when I'm out having a couple of drinks with my friends who are both on different, I have friends on both sides of the aisle, and I just look at them and go, yeah, how's that working for you right now? Usually that quiets them down pretty quickly. But when you want to have a little bit more of a cerebral discussion about this, the two-party system is a false cut. It's an Occam's razor on one line, which is a predefined set of issues. When you look at what I would like to propose is an alternative. And I think, has everybody seen the simplest political quiz in the world? Are you an authoritarian versus a libertarian, or are you a Democrat versus a Republican?
No, I hadn't seen that.
Okay, it's basically a very simple set of 10, 15 questions, and it puts you somewhere on this graph. And at the top is libertarian, at the bottom is authoritarian. You've got one slice. Well, then we have that artificial slice that's been in place for so long, the vertical slice. Way over here on the left, you've got all your Democrats, and way over on the right, you've got all the Republicans. And so what it starts to show you as you fill in this quiz is, well, are you really Republican? Because you're claiming that you want to be very fiscally conservative, and you want people to stay out of your pocketbook. You want to be responsible for your own retirement. You want to be responsible for your own
health. Yeah, so I get it. In other words, it's not a cut and dried, right and left paradigm. There's a whole three-dimensional understanding here that people need to understand. They are, they're learning, and this is a progression in their life, and they see the good and bad in both, and they're coming up with what is really important is what is liberty for the individual and making your choice for yourself. Hey, we're about to run out of time here, and we do get a broadcast. I don't know if we're getting out this time of year over into Virginia, but if there's anybody in Virginia listening, this candidate sounds like the real deal. And James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in the last minute that we have, and why you need support for the people there in Virginia in your district, so you can go to Washington and maybe make a difference for us.
Well, I'm not like a lot of the political candidates who are going to throw out platitudes. My website actually has, if you said you've seen it, some of the issues on there will run on to 2,500 words, because I want to explain the logic behind my position, not some little trite, sounds nice wording that's been A/B tested forever.
Right. What's your website, Jim? James, what's your website?
Yep, it's James Carr, F-O-R, Congress.org. And actually, if you Google James Carr Congress, I'm going to be the top several sites at this point, because once VA 7th District had the big upset,
Yeah, I saw you up there.
All the sites.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to have to go. James, thanks so much for being with us tonight on Liberty Talk Radio. We want to thank the audience for tuning in, and your thoughts and prayers are with Joe Cristiano tonight as he's recovering in the hospital. So God bless it, and you guys take care.